Welcome back. All right, so as expected, predicted, we have another news of the day video for all you fine people out there on the internet. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another one by the end of the day, honestly. GMs are working the phones, agents are discussing contracts, a lot's going on right now, and we've got an expansion draft coming up. And Oiler fans today, bit of a meltdown here and there. We'll get to that, we'll finish off with that. And somewhere Columbus fans tuning into this are like, oh, why is he wearing Columbus? Oh, no. So Brandon Carlo, it became official shortly after I posted the other video that he has signed a 6-year deal with the Boston Bruins at a cap hit of $4.1 million, so $24.6 million. Of course, you're going to have questions about how many games he's going to play and whether or not he can stay healthy a full season. But in reality, Carlo's at $4 million for a cap hit. That's excellent. That's really smart management and a really smart signing by Don Sweeney. So I give a thumbs up to that. And nice to see Carlo getting paid and getting the respect that I think he's deserved as a really good shutdown defenseman for the Boston Bruins. The Portland Winterhawks created some news today with their brand new logo. I absolutely love it. I think they knocked it out of the park. And so now the question again becomes one of, at what point does Chicago think about, and I know people get all upset when they think about Chicago changing their logo, but I do think at some point it may very well happen. And I don't know when, I don't know what exactly we're going to see, but there are some really nice concepts out there. We've all seen the really nice concepts. And for Portland, it made a lot of sense for them to become the Winterhawks with the Hawk logo. And next up, change it back to 2 words. It was 2 words initially and became 1 word later, so they can switch it back. So that would be interesting to see. And again, I think they hit it out of the park. I like the colors they picked. And we will see over the next little while here what their jerseys are going to look like. I went into their shop right away, of course. And I'm like, okay, because of course, you know, I saw the shop for the new Abbotsford jerseys, and I'm like, okay, I got to see what those look like. And I think they did well with those. We'll see how they look in person, but I think they did all right with those for the new Abbotsford Canucks. But yeah, Portland, I'm straight up saying, yeah, I will likely get a Winterhawks jersey when those come out because they look, the logo looks really nice, the colors look really nice. I think it's going to be a really good jersey, and we'll see, right? Keith Yandle was not asked to waive his no movement clause. So we're getting into who was and who wasn't asked to waive their no movement clause for expansion reasons, right? So Keith Yandle, who is in the doghouse by the time we get around to the playoffs, we're going to see with Yandle whether or not he's still a member of Florida at the start of this coming season. But with Keith Yandle as well, you know, I don't think there'd be much point in exposing him in the expansion draft. I don't know that Seattle would take Yandle either. I'm a little bit surprised that he wasn't asked to waive it, but I guess for Florida they were like, we've got this figured out. We'll protect Yandle. Not a big deal, and they didn't ask him to waive. There are rumors out there as well that are being reported. And again, before I put this into a video, I check to make sure on which sources are reporting this, right? That maybe Pavel Buchnevich is on the block. At the very least, Chris Drury is having conversations with other GMs about the possibility of Buchnevich being moved. It would make a lot of sense. The New York Rangers have some very good young forwards. They have a lot of good young skilled forwards. They might be able to put Buchnevich out there in order to remedy other issues with the lineup, strengthen other parts of their lineup, and Buchnevich would be very popular right now as a trade target for teams. He's a good young forward. And again, we'll see if anything comes of that. It at the very least, it sounds like they're open to moving him, but it doesn't sound like it's an active we need to get rid of him kind of situation. But again, we'll see. These things do tend to change. And now to the reason I'm wearing Columbus. Patrik Laine talking to Finnish media. Now, I'm going to say this. Whenever we see these things come out through foreign media, it's been translated. When things get translated, sometimes they don't translate well. Sometimes you say a certain phrase in another language, you translate it word for word into, say, English or into a different, it may come off completely different, right? So I know when I worked at a summer camp, and there was a guy there who was French, and he was trying to teach me these like French sort of phrases that they throw, and I'm like, wait, what does that mean? And he told me, I was like, that's kind of weird, isn't it? No, we just said so. Again, with that in mind, maybe what Patrik Laine was saying to the Finnish media wasn't what it sounded like, but it sure sounded like it. So in May, he said he was fine with the systems. He had no problem with John Tortorella, nothing. Everything's fine. Now that Tortorella's fired, he has some things to say. And I think that the key thing, and again, this may have been translated in a manner that maybe it's not the way it sounds, but he said, I am who I am, and do things my way. One of the things with Patrik Laine that's been said from the beginning is he's not big on the defensive side of things. He's not big on that. He even said, I have to kind of cheat to play my game. That, the whole, all right, so the puck's in our zone. I'm going to cheat out towards the neutral zone because I might be able to get a break on that. I'm supposed to come back and play a little bit, on this offensive play. But if I stay closer to the net, I think I got a better shot of a goal. And he's basically saying he's a goal scorer. And the whole defense and systems thing, it stifles him as a goal scorer, and he doesn't like it. And he doesn't like, clearly from the spirit of what's being said in this article, he doesn't like being held accountable for when he goes outside the system, when he goes into business for himself, as it would be termed. It's a wrestling terminology. You go into business for yourself, and it's not a good terminology either. And it's hard to rein that in. And it may very well be that he is used to being the focal point as a goal scorer, and the idea of, okay, now we need you to really buy into the team thing. It's probably going to negatively impact your goals. Some players don't like that. And so for Laine, that may very well be what it is, that he is not happy in a defensive system. And this is where I think the idea that, if he's available, Florida might pick him up. I don't know. I don't know that Joel Quenneville would be happy with that either. I don't know that Quenneville would be all that anxious to get a guy into the locker room who's like, I don't think I'm coming back on that play, coach. How about I just kind of lurk around just outside the blue line and more towards center? You guys are good penalty killers, right? And it'll be fine. And obviously I'm, putting it to ridiculous lengths. But again, it'll be interesting to see how much money Laine gets on his next deal, what kind of term it is as well. And again, if he doesn't figure this out, if he doesn't find a way to play at both ends, back in the 80s, that would have been fine. Nobody would have been asking him to play in his own end. He would have been one of these guys who's scoring 50 goals a year, but he also would have been a player who had a pretty large minus in the plus-minus category, and there would have been some questions asked about, so they have to put like a Guy Carbonneau type out there with him just to cover for him, and then the complaint would be, well, I don't want to be with a defensive center. I'm not going to get enough goals. So yeah, we'll see how things work out with Laine in the offseason. Or again, we'll see if there's clarification of this. But every offseason we have players that talk to foreign media, and it's almost as if they're like, well, this is in another language. They won't understand that. And then it gets translated, sent back here, and they're like, well, that's not, how did you guys find out I said that? Okay. So again, we'll see how things turn out for Columbus. Good news for Canuck fans. Elias Pettersson has started shooting pucks. Of course, he had wrist surgery that shut him down. The injury shut him down for the season, and he had surgery for that. So the fact that he's taking shots, good. Get strength, get back into the swing of things, and really get himself going again. So for Pettersson, that's a good thing, and it's July 14th, so we are a long ways out from the start of the season. He should be good to go for training camp. And again, if Pettersson can bounce back and have the kind of season we know he can for the Canucks, they can have a huge bounce back season. This is a team that can have a huge bounce back next season. Teddy Blueger. So this happened shortly before recording this video. Teddy Blueger has signed a 2-year deal with Pittsburgh, worth $2.2 million per season. That tells me they're going to protect him. That tells me Blueger's in their long-term plans. We'll see who Pittsburgh's one of those teams I'm really anxious to see who they protect and who they don't. Maybe they don't protect Blueger. Maybe this is a contract that Seattle looks at and goes, thanks, which would make me upset because Teddy Blueger's my favorite Penguin. So I really hope that he stays in Pittsburgh. But if he ends up in Seattle, okie dokie. But again, Pittsburgh, I'm going to be really interested to see their protected lists, especially among the forwards. The defense, not as much, but among the forwards, because I think it's a forward that they end up losing to Seattle. And yes, I'll throw this in this video as well. Once we know the protected and exposed lists on the 17th, I'll do a video at that point on who I think they're going to take from each team, because then we'll know the exposed lists, and I'll go through and I'll come up with here's who I think they take, and maybe I'll go with who I think they take, who I would take, that kind of thing, and then maybe a dark horse for each team as well. Have fun with it, sure, why not? And then we'll see just how wrong all of that is when they reveal their team on the 21st. And between the 18th and the 20th, they have exclusive negotiating rights with any UFAs who aren't protected by their teams. So, not protecting UFAs is one way to go. The Oilers may be taking another way to go. There's lots of discussions about whether or not they're about to sign Adam Larsson. And that's caused Oiler fans to go, wait a second, because they're looking at the protected list, and they're right to think this way. So, if they choose to protect 4 and 4, you've got to think Nurse, Keith, Larsson, if they've re-signed him, and Ethan Bear. But they can't expose Keith because Keith's got a no movement clause. I can't see him waiving that and risking going to Seattle, and I can't see them risking losing him to Seattle either. That'd be a really weird way to go about things, wouldn't it? You want to see Oiler fans have a meltdown. That might do it too, where they've lost Caleb Jones, a 3rd-round draft pick, and now they get nothing for it, right? So, you have to protect Keith, you have to protect Nurse, and you would think Larsson as, you know, a re-signed free agent under contract. But does Bear get protected? Because if they go 4 and 4, by my account, and just by quickly looking over it on Cap Friendly, they'd protect Draisaitl, clearly, McDavid, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and then I'm thinking probably Yamamoto, which would leave potentially Puljujarvi, Cassian as 2 examples of players exposed, and there'd be a lot of other players as well. But would they actually? here's the thing: you could potentially add Duncan Keith and lose Puljujarvi on the expansion if they went 4 and 4. If they went 4 and 4, you could potentially see Puljujarvi as the expansion pick for Seattle. Which, again, I have to say, Ken Holland with what he's done, it's really, I think it's made Jim Benning feel pretty good in Vancouver, because nobody's talking about him right now, which is always a good thing. And yes, that's going to change. It's going to change. There will be discussions about the Canucks and Benning and the potential for buyouts. I know Benning's talked about buyouts. I'm not sure. I'm not sure who gets bought out, and I'm not sure for how much. So we'll see how that goes for Vancouver. But yeah, for right now, for the Oilers, it will be very interesting to see how their protected list looks as well. Because, yeah, I mean, you have to protect, I would think, Yamamoto ahead of Puljujarvi. Yamamoto could have a big year next year. And so Nurse, Keith, and Larsson. So do you risk losing Bear? Because then you can protect 7 forwards, 3 defensemen. And do you risk Ethan Bear going to Seattle? Keeping in mind, Ethan Bear was requested by Chicago for the Duncan Keith deal, and the Oilers refused to let go of Ethan Bear. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for every single team. It's going to be great. All right, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.